if you're here, you're probably coming from Twitter, where I promised that I would make a little video explainer for how to use Zotero for citation management. I will warn you now that this is extremely raw. It's not going to be edited, so if I make mistakes, please roll with it. I don't really have the resources or the time to do a full sort of edit. But I think this will be helpful, and this is how you learn to use Zotero anyway, by making mistakes and by playing with it. So please bear with me. I'll show you the very basics. This is not advanced in any way. There are a lot of advanced features in Zotero that you can use to do all sorts of cool things, but I want to show you just how to use it as a citation manager, so that you don't have to create citations manually. It saves a ton of time and effort. I seriously think it shaved off weeks, probably months, out of my dissertation work, and it did it better than I could have done manually. So please know that this is a very basic explainer. This won't be very long, and it won't be edited. This is just me playing with it, showing you how to use Zotero the way I would use the way I would show my students how to use Zotero, which means I will probably misspeak and make mistakes, but I'll try to correct them as I go. Again, this is really basic stuff. It looks intimidating, and a lot of people don't use Zotero because it looks too technical, too complicated. There are all these different areas of the program, all these menus, but it actually is very easy, and I'll show you how to use the basic features, and then you can play with some of the other advanced features, but this is really, really simple. It's not as intimidating as it looks. Obviously, when you first get Zotero, you won't have any of this. This is a collection of a couple of years of work. So I have quite a few entries here. But it looks like this. So of course, the first thing you want to do is download the app. And there are actually two components to it. You don't need both, but I highly recommend that you use both. The first is the actual application, Zotero, which you can find on zotero.org/download. Or you can just Google it. We all know how to use Google. And this is where you download it. And so again, this Zotero 5.0 for Mac, but there's also a Windows version and a Linux version. I'm using Mac, so it automatically, you know, brings me to the Mac download page. Is this. And that's what Zotero actually is. To make full use of the features that you want to really make use of with Zotero, you want the connector as well. So you want to download both of these. Zotero, the actual app, and the Zotero connector. And I'll show you what that does. The connector is available for Chrome and Firefox. I don't think there are versions for other browsers, but most of us use one or the other, Chrome or Firefox, so that should be fine. Okay, so once you've downloaded Zotero and the connector, you're pretty much good to go. The other program, of course, that you'll use is Microsoft Word or one of its alternatives, LibreOffice or OpenOffice, which I believe are more or less the same thing. They also work with Zotero, and the way you get to the menu, to the Zotero menu, is slightly differently. It also is slightly differently on Mac than it is on Windows. On a Mac, you'll have your own ribbon here for Zotero. It looks like this. If I remember correctly, Windows looks a little bit differently. I think it sort of shows up around here. I could be wrong. It might be on the other side, but it looks slightly differently than it does here on my Mac. Still, you can't miss it. Once you have it, once you download Zotero, it should automatically add either a ribbon or a small menu to Microsoft Word. And the menu looks something like this. You have the option of adding a citation, of adding or editing a bibliography, your preferences, a way to refresh, and a way to unlink citations. I'll talk about those features in a minute. But it automatically loads onto Microsoft Word. So there's not anything you need to do to get that menu onto Word. with some exceptions. Sometimes if your settings are wonky, you might need to add it manually, and you can Google how to do that. It's actually fairly easy. I won't go into that here, but for most of us, it should just kind of load onto Word as soon as we download the app. Okay. So let's go into Zotero, and I'll show you what it looks like in a little bit of detail. So first, you have your library here, which is where your citations are saved. There are ways to create groups of documents, folders, collections of documents. I've never actually done that. I have all of my citations in one place. It just works for me. I know some people would not like this at all and have their own systems and actually separate their collections by um, archival collections, right? By a topic. Maybe they're doing it by project. They have a book and they have a journal article and they use different citations. You want to separate those? You can do that. You can create different folders with new collections, new groups, right? So if I want to create a new collection, I do that. If I want to group that, well, let me not go into that. That might get a little too technical. So if you want to do that, just play with this. You can do this in a number of ways, and it's not that difficult. I prefer to have everything in one library, just everything here in one place, and then I usually just search by author or by title. So I don't think it's especially necessary for me and my needs to have different collections. So I just have everything here in one place. But again, you can play with this later and decide what works for you. All right. So my library contains all my citations, all of the books that I've used, that I've needed to cite, all of the articles, all of the newspapers, all of the reports, all of this stuff is here. Dissertations, theses, podcasts, even. Right, all of this is here. And there's a really easy way to add things. I just go here to New Item, and then decide whether it's a book, a document, a journal article, letter, and so on. There are a ton of different types of documents, citations, from artwork to podcast to just a simple web page and everything in between. Um, Newspaper articles, magazine articles, and so on. And depending on what you choose, let's say magazine article. You will have to input the information here, the title of the article, the author, last and first name. If you want to have an abstract, you can type your abstract there, the publication, the volume, issue, date, pages. A lot of this stuff you don't need to have. Most of our citations don't require us to say what language something is in. If we want to do that, we can. ISSN, a URL. All of these things are available to you. You don't have to use all of them. So if you're inputting the title of a magazine, uh, let's say the title is "This is a Magazine" by Lastington, Firstington in Magazine Today. Maybe I don't have a volume or an issue. They just do dates. So let's say January 2020, pages 1 through 10, and that's all I have. That's all I put in. This will never give me errors because I don't have all this other stuff. It won't ask me to fill in things I don't have available. You type in what you can, which is what you do when you're citing manually too, right? If you don't have a URL, or if it didn't come from an archive, you just put in what you have. And that's it. This is my citation. It's ready to go, and I'll show you how to input it into Word in a minute. But again, decide what type of document it is. It's a magazine article. The title, the author's last and first name, title of the magazine. If there's an issue or a volume, I put those in here. the date that it was published, and the pages, and we're good to go. This is all ready to go. Okay. Suppose I have a book, and I do have a few books here with me. Let's do a book. That's probably the thing that you'll cite the most often, with the exception of maybe journal articles. So let's go to book. All right. So the book title will be, this is a book by Lasty Firsty. A series from fake titles, published in New York by Fakey Publishers, 2020. Boom. Okay, there is my book. That's all I really need. I don't need to include all of this other stuff. Just need the basics. The way that I normally cite it manually would be to have the title, the author, of course, the series, if there's a series, place, publisher. It's all good to go. Okay, so now I come here and I need to cite it. I use Chicago. Most of you who are historians use Chicago. Some of you might use MLA, APA, and so on. What's really cool about Zotero is that it will do the citation formatting for you. So you don't need to do this manually. Even cooler, you can switch between citations. So I'm going to cite this in Chicago, but if then I needed to submit this to some publication that uses APA, I wouldn't have to do any of this manually. I would actually hit like one button and it would do it for me. It would just switch everything from Chicago to APA. But for now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just add a citation here. I click add citation, and then it'll bring this up, the document preferences. This is where you decide, where you tell the machine what format you're using. I want to use Chicago Manual, 17th edition, and the full note. There's a way to do author date or short notes. Of course, I can choose MLA, right? Modern Language Association, or American Psychological Association, APA, and so on. And depending on what you choose, you get a few more options down here. Of course, I want the full Chicago note. I want footnotes rather than endnotes. And again, if at some point you need to switch this and you decided you wanted endnotes instead, or you needed to submit with endnotes, but you did this with footnotes, you can just change that with one click. But for now, let's say footnotes, fields, yes. I actually don't know what the difference is here. I've never had to move it or change this, so let's just keep it the way it is. Automatically update citations, which is another really cool feature. You can kind of update your citations as you go and as you make changes. You can also do this manually, but let's say OK, and then this comes up. Here I can type the title of the book, or I can type the name of the author, even the date. There's a number of ways you can search this. I like to just do either author or title. The title is This is a Book. And there it is. Hit enter or return. And then I'm going to click on it and add a page number. I'm citing page 10, let's say. Then hit enter or return again. One more time. And there is my citation. Okay, I just realized that I typed Lasty wrong, right? So I could just fix it in here, but the easier thing to do would be go back into Zotero, fix it, and then I go back in here. Notice how it's still wrong. I'm going to refresh. And there it is. It corrected it for me. So if you've been typing something wrong and you realize 100 citations in that oh boy, it's actually lasty, not latey. You can just update it in Zotero, refresh your document, and it will correct all instances of that error. That's fantastic, right? But here we have our title. We have, our citation. We have first and last name, the name of the book, the series, the place and publisher, and the page number. That citation was generated automatically. And it's really cool that I don't have to do that manually. Okay, so that's how you create citations, and then that is how you actually cite in your document. So really cool. Even cooler, you don't have to do this manually. Even this part right here of creating citations that you can then use in Word, you don't have to do manually. You can let the computer do this for you, and I'll show you how. Okay, back to my browser. Remember I told you we were going to download the connector. This is what the connector does. I like to use Amazon for this. You can also use Google Books or any website that has metadata attached. But I like to use Amazon because it's seldom incorrect. It's almost always spot on. Part of this is because Amazon is evil and they collect a lot of data, including really good metadata. But let's use this evil for good. I have this book in front of me that I want to cite, and I could do it a number of ways. I could create the citation a number of ways. The book is The Best of Enemies by Usher Gray Davidson. So I'm going to type it in here. Now this is the video. I want the book. This is the book. And of course I can narrow it down here, but I know what the book looks like. It looks like this. Once I'm here, I don't want the Kindle version, I want the paperback. If there was a hardback, you could do that here. Okay, so here's the book. I'll go down here and just copy the ISBN. Go back in here, click this little button. You can enter your ISBNs, DOIs, PMIDs, and so on here. Just paste it, hit return. It's grabbing the information, and look at that. I just got the citation in here. It's a book. There is the title. Now, you'll notice that this is actually not entirely correct. Movie edition? I don't know what that means. I don't want that. So I want Best of Enemies, Race and Redemption, and New South. Fantastic. Most of the time you don't need to do anything here. The information is usually quite accurate. But look at the rest of it. I have the author. I don't need Project Muse in here, so I'm going to get rid of that. Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina Press, date. It's all in here, ready to go. Okay? I'm going to delete it to show you a different way of doing this. Also really, really easy. If you have the connector, the Zotero connector, this will show up here. It'll look slightly differently, and I'll show you how it looks for other things, but it'll look slightly differently based on what the document is. So this is a book, it looks like a book. If I'm here, I can just click this little guy here. Once it turns blue, it'll save to my library. Then I can go into the library, and look at that. There it is. Again, this is not entirely correct, but this is rare actually. Most of the time you get really good citations. So let me use a different book. Let's use, I have another book in front of me here. Arminian's fantastic book on documented lives. Okay, so I go to the book page. I want to cite the hardcover, so I'll click that so that it grabs the right information. I've already bought this twice, apparently. Okay, so I can copy the ISBN course, my computer is freezing here. I can copy the ISBN and then input it here. An even easier way, though, is just to let this do the work for me. The connector will grab the information. All I have to do is click it. And then once it's saved, I can go to my library. You'll notice that, that it's here. I have her dissertation here as well. But this is the book. It grabbed it from Amazon, and this is, let's just double check. I like to always double check. This is the title. That's the correct title. It even gives me an abstract. Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, your formatting, you may want to change for consistency. I like to do this, or just the city. Of course, it's Cambridge, so that could be confusing. I use the state. I use it in this format. And there it is. But the rest of it is perfectly fine. Harvard University Press, the date that it was published, number of pages even, the ISBN is imported. So it just grabs everything for me. I don't need to do much. I just click this button and it grabs all the metadata that I need. So I want to cite it now. I'm going to go into Word. And I need to cite Anna Minion's book here. I'm going to add citation. This comes up. Type her name. We have her dissertation and our book. I want the book. So I could have looked for this by title. And I want to cite page 5. Hit return. Go down here and hey, look at that. There's the citation. All done for me. All right. Now, what if you don't want a book? What if you want to cite an article? Well, it works exactly the same way. I'm going to get rid of this. Remember, you can use Google Books as well. I can type the title, go here, and it will do the same thing. This will light up in just a minute once it grabs all the information, and I can just click that, and it works exactly the same way. I like to use Amazon because more often than not, it is correct. Google Books and Google Scholar can sometimes be a little bit off. I don't know why exactly Amazon is more accurate. I have this theory that it's because it's evil and collects really good information for their own profit. But anyway, that's a different lesson. Okay, I can go to my library homepage, look for an article that I want, and I'm just going to skip a step here, but you know how to use your library's databases. And once you get to the article that you want, just pretend that I looked it up here, and it brought me to this place. Okay, so notice how it's still loading. Once it loads, this changes. And when we were looking at books, it was a little blue book. When you're looking at a journal article, it looks like this, like a white page with lines. Either way, once this changes to whatever it's changing to, you can just click it. And it saves the information to your library. So once I click it, I go to Zotero just to double check, and it'll always bring me to the latest citation that I've saved. And yes, journal article, the title is there, the author is there, an abstract is there, which is fantastic. The publication is there, the volume is there, the issue, if there were an issue, would be here. Notice I have it in here already. And this is one that I created manually, but I didn't need to do that because I could just go to my database and click that button, and it would save it for me. And it did. There it is. Let's do it with one other article. That's in JSTOR. This is an article that I was using for my students, so I brought it up. And again, once it's loaded, once the page is loaded, this will turn a different color, and it'll give me the option to save to Zotero. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click this button. And all of that information is transferred over to Zotero automatically. Again, I already had it in here, so I have a duplicate. But look at that. It grabs everything I need, and it does it correctly. The title is there, the author is there, publication, volume, issue, pages, the date, all of it. It grabbed, all I had to do was click this button, and it created the citation for me. So now I'm going to use that citation. I'm going to go in here to my Word document and decide Professor Hall's brilliant article. So I'm going to add citation. And maybe I want to use the title instead so that I don't have all these different options. I can just use part of the title, the long civil rights movement and the political uses of the past. I just typed uses of the past, and I want to cite page 1233, the first page. Now, don't panic if this happens. Sometimes it goes away. It doesn't really go away. It's there. You just need to open up your computer's windows. When did I say it was? 1233. Okay, so the first page, hit return, and there it is. There is my third citation. Okay, it's that easy. Suppose I want to edit this, and I typed the wrong page number. It's not 1233, it's 1250. I'm just going to highlight it, hit no, don't do that. Just edit, just like I did before. Instead of adding, I will edit. So I just need to select it, and that same button, add or edit, will bring this back up. Oops, wrong page, 1250. There it is, and it corrected it for me. Just like that. It's that simple. Okay. Let's do one more type of document. So let's say I want to cite a newspaper article. Well, I could do it manually, and this you may have to do manually if you're using archival material, of course. So you can go here, hit newspaper article, right, and then input it manually. It'll still save you time in the long run to do this. You have to do it once, and then that source will always be there for you to grab. But I want to do this a different way. This is an online piece that I want to cite. So let's go find ourselves a news article. Notice it's loading. You'll notice this is not fully there yet either. As soon as this loads, we should have something that looks like a newspaper there. And this has been giving me a little bit of trouble, but it worked this time, so that's fantastic. Okay, so there it is. We have a little newspaper here. That means it's ready to be saved. So I can go ahead and grab it. Let me do something different. This is sort of a blog style news piece, so let's find an actual article that's written by one person or two people, something that's more manageable. Let's see if that works. Okay, this has an author name, so let's see how that works. Oh, okay, this is good. This is not what I expected to happen, but that's okay. I can show you what this is. Sometimes you find a page that has a lot of different articles, and that may be in JSTOR, it may be in your library homepage, it might be on a newspaper site. What this does is it allows you to save everything on that page. So I can save all of these different articles with basically one click. But I don't want to do that. I actually want to save one article. So let me see if I can find one article. Okay, this has a clear title and an author. Okay, there it is. So we have the newspaper icon here. I'm going to click it. That will save this newspaper article. I want to make sure it's correct though, so I always go to Zotero right after I save something. There it is. Okay, it's a newspaper article. The title is mostly correct, but it added the author's name in here for some reason, so I'm going to get rid of that. It did, however, grab the author's name in the correct position as well, so that's great. The publication, the date. Now the date you can type in different formats. and Zotero will recognize what you're doing. So you can actually type 2020-04-14 and the time, or you can let Zotero grab that information. You can also just do it this way. What's the date? April 14th. Or you could do it that way. You could do it a number of ways. Zotero will recognize what you're doing within reason, as long as it has some sort of syntax that is recognizable. I like to just do, why do I keep typing January? Because time doesn't matter anymore. That's why. I like to do it in that format. Um, Either way, it will do it correctly based on the citation format that you've chosen. That's also really important. I should say that you can actually have all of this the way it is here in lowercase. Right? The name is uppercase, but everything else is lowercase. But in Chicago, I need to capitalize those words. I don't need to do it manually. I let this sit the way it is, and then I just cite. I'll show you what it does. So notice this is all in lowercase. I don't need to fix this. I can just leave it as is. Zotero will decide based on the citation format that I'm using what needs to be capitalized. So I'm going to cite it in here. Add my citation. There it is. Notice again that this is in all lowercase. I don't care because it'll fix it for me. I'm going to hit return, return again, and then let's go check out the footnote. There it is. Look at how it capitalized all the correct, or it capitalized it correctly. It capitalized the words that needed to be capitalized. It didn't capitalize this preposition because that's not how we do it in Chicago. If you were citing this in APA and that needed to be in lowercase, it would do it. I forget exactly what APA does. I know it's something wonky, like not capitalize the title of a book. Again, that's a topic for another conversation, but it would do it correctly based on the citation format that you need. So there it is, guys. This is my article with my citations. It's almost ready to go. The one thing I need here is a bibliography. Well, that's kind of a pain, right? Now Zotero. Zotero will look at everything that I've already cited and then just create a bibliography for me. And that's really cool. All I have to do is go here to add or edit bibliography. Literally one click. And you'll see what happens here. It might take a minute. It may not have registered for some reason. There it is. Look at that. There is my bibliography. Formatted correctly, with the indentations in the correct place, alphabetized for me, organized beautifully. I could have 4 things or I could have 1,000. Either way, Zotero will do that for me. And if I made a mistake and one of these things is misspelled or formatted incorrectly, or the page numbers are off, I don't need to worry about going into the document and tracking down every instance that is incorrect. I just fix it here, right? If I had misspelled Dowd, D-O-U-D, for example, didn't notice it until the very end. Well, normally I would have to make sure that I wasn't being a dummy and just thought it was spelled with a U and check every single citation. I can just fix it once, and then it would fix both my footnotes and my bibliography. And it's really cool. This is all you really need to know about Zotero. Let me think about what's missing here. Let me show you how you can change your citation formats. Again, suppose I wrote this in Chicago, which I did, and I actually need to submit this to a journal that does MLA. Well, it would be a bit of a pain to have to go back in and do everything manually, but I don't have to do that. I can just go here to Document Preferences and choose MLA. Hit OK. It's going to do something here behind the scenes, and hey, look at that. It's now in MLA. One thing I might have to change is where my periods go, but that's easy. That's much easier than having to do this all manually. So there it is. We have my citations in MLA, my bibliography in MLA. And suppose now I want it to be an APA. Hit OK. And it's now in this abomination that is APA. I want it to go back to Chicago, but I don't want the full note. I want a short note. I hit OK. And I'm assuming it's working on it. Yeah, there it is. There are my notes. There's my bibliography. That's it. That's all you really need to know. Let's do something wonky here. Would I like to disable it? Sure. It looks intimidating, folks, but it's not. It's actually really easy, and most of it is done for you. You don't need to do much here. You can just create citations by copying and pasting ISBNs, DOIs, or just by letting this little tab, the connector. Remember I told you you need two things. You need the app, which is what we normally use with Zotero, or excuse me, with Microsoft Word, and the connector, which is what lives here. One other thing that I want to talk about. You generally want to create an account. Zotero is a not-for-profit project, so you don't have to worry about privacy issues. Generally, they've been excellent at using data ethically and of not collecting personal information and so on. So I like Zotero. EndNote, I don't know too much about. It works pretty much the same way as far as the mechanics of how to use it. I've used it before. I've never used Mendeley. I'm told it's also similar. But I'm getting off track here. So what I want to show you is that you want to create an account. You can register for a free account, and if you have a lot of storage, you might have to pay for it. But most of us who are using this just for citation management really don't need to worry about this, and we get a free account. And what having an account does is allow you to sync your work, which I think is really important because sometimes I don't have access to my computer. The main computer that I use for writing is in my office, and I can't get to my office right now because of this pandemic. But I didn't lose any of my information. I just sync it. I sync my computer at work so that when I come home, anything that I saved in my office will show up here on this computer. All you have to do for that is have an account, and then when you go in here, Zotero Preferences, and Sync, you can link an account here. Do that to all your devices, and then once you've done that, if you save something on one device, it will show up in all the others. Okay, so you want to do that. One other potentially useful piece of information is that you can attach notes. So some folks I know use this for cops, where they might have a collection. Again, you can create different collections here if it helps you to keep things organized. And then add notes, right? You can add a note about, I don't know, one thing you might do is add important quotations here that you can, use later to cite your information. This is a key quotation. I need to know where it is, so I type the quotation, I type the page number, and I'm going to save it here. All right, that might be useful. And you have all of this in one place. Another thing you can do is actually attach things to your citations. So you can attach a link, you can attach an actual file, a copy of a file, So if you want to have, say, let's get rid of this, I don't actually need this. If, say, you want to attach this journal article, the actual article document, to the citation, then you could do that. You could add the attachment. Maybe it's you downloaded it, just do this and save it, and it will attach to this. If you do that for all your documents or for citations, and you do that for many of them, you might need to sign up for a storage account. I don't know what the cost is. I've never had to pay for anything, but some people like to do that. I don't do that. I use Zotero purely, really, for citation management. Sometimes though, I've wondered if I should have done this sooner and actually added notes to things so that it's all in one place, really nicely organized. Whether I should have attached the actual documents to these citations, you can decide for yourself whether that makes sense to do. You can tag things by topic or by name or by whatever. These are really easy to find in Zotero, again, just by name of the author or by title. But if you want to add additional tags, some are created automatically, right? So African Americans or Hispanic Americans or immigration policy. When you grab them from JSTOR or from Amazon or from wherever, they might come with tags. You can decide whether you want to keep those, but you can also add your own. So those are things that you can play with and decide whether that's something you're interested in doing and whether that works for you. But hopefully you understand the basics of using this as a citation manager, and hopefully you can see how easy it actually is to use and to generate these citations and bibliographies for you. It's a really fantastic tool. It'll save you a ton of headaches, a ton of pain. It's never too late to start. I think people often wonder whether this needs to be something you start at the beginning of a project. I think that's certainly ideal, but it isn't the only way to take advantage of it. I still use it for stuff that I wrote a while back as a revise. I noticed that it's just a lot easier to add a citation, to go to Amazon, look up the book, click this button, and add the citation, and then I can just bring it into Microsoft Word. Than it is to do this manually. Again, ideally, yes, you want to start this before you start a project so that you have a sort of sense of consistency, but it is never too late. You can always start to do this, and it will save you a whole lot of pain and a whole lot of work. So I hope this has been helpful. I want to keep this brief and keep it just sort of the basics. But if you have questions about this, I am by no means an expert user. Your librarians will have a much fuller descriptions and will have a much better sense of how this can be used for your individual project. So please reach out to them. They will always have more information than I have. But now you have at least the basics, um, and uh, and hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you a sense of how to use this really powerful tool and how it can make your life easier. If you have questions that you think I can help with, please reach out anytime. You know where to find me. Um, yeah, please do let me know. If I don't have the answer, I'll look it up. But I've used this enough to know the basics and to give you a sense of how to use this. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, please let me know if you have questions or if there's anything else that I can do, or if there's anything I left out. So I'm sure there is. Happy to answer questions on Twitter or by email. So thanks for watching this, and again, I hope this has been at least somewhat helpful. Take care, stay healthy.